Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz game number 256. I was white here. I mean black. I was black here and I played the French defense. E4, E6, D4, D5. So far everything is normal. Now the top moves here are knight C3 leading to the classical or the win hour. Show this. Knight D2 is known as the Tarrasch defense, or E5, the advanced variation. And then the fourth choice here is E takes D5, which was played. And this is the exchange variation of the French defense. And it's not particularly dangerous, so black usually equalizes pretty easily in this opening, and you'll see that happening here. You can play knight F3 or bishop to D3 here. My opponent chose bishop D3. Looks like maybe the engine thinks knight F3 is a little bit stronger. And then I went with knight F6. Looks like other choices, bishop D6, knight C6, but basically they're all okay. And then queen E2 check, a bit of an unusual line. Let's see, knight F3 is still the main move. Makes sense. Just develop your pieces. No need to do anything with the queen. I mean, I have a good answer to this check, which is just bishop E7. I was thinking the bishop might end up on E7 anyway because white perhaps has the idea of playing bishop G5 and pinning my knight, so the bishop is going to go here anyway. So now it serves double duty. It blocks against the queen, and you can see that the engine thinks we're about equal here. So I think the game proceeds pretty normally for the next few moves. Maybe H3 is probably a bit of a waste of time, but I guess he didn't want the pin when my bishop coming to G4 pinning his knight. So I just go ahead and castle, and he develops his knight to C3 first. Bit of an unusual move there. Let's back up. The problem with knight C3 is it's blocking the C pawn, which may want to come to either C3 or C4 to attack the center or to support white's center. So knight F3 is the more logical move here. Also makes sense after H3 that you'd play knight F3. Anyway, but we went this way, and he blocks with bishop E3. And now he's allowed me to get this kind of pin going here, so it's a bit tricky for white. And I think with good play I might actually be able to win this game, but somehow I don't quite find the right moves. So bishop B5 is what I played. Okay, so far so good. Oh no, it's his turn. He plays bishop B5. Okay. And I went knight C6. Okay, so here is a point where I could have tried something. C takes D4. A little bit dangerous looking, because what happens if he takes my rook? Then I take on C3. Maybe this is the idea. And what if he just retreats the bishop? Take on B2, rook B1. So what's that? He's won the exchange, right? I've got one rook and 4 pieces. He's got 2 rooks and 3 pieces. But I've got D4. I've got 2 pawns for the exchange, and one of them is this nice pawn here. So do I have a great follow-up? Queen to A5 check is a good follow-up here. Yeah, so this is pretty strong. How can he, well, his bishop is defended, but if he wants to avoid losing his castling privileges, well, why can't he just play this move? Queen takes A2. And I'm chasing the rook away, or perhaps, okay, so queen D1 defending the rook, and knight E4. It's kind of flooding in with my pieces. Pretty interesting. So I get a pawn one way or another after this check. The engine line is suggesting C3 and queen takes C3. So I have 3 pawns for the exchange, which is quite a good advantage. So let's see if we can spot this. So at this point, yeah, he just moved his bishop here to attack my rook, and I responded to that. And I didn't recognize this threat of taking here, taking here, taking here was actually more powerful than giving up the rook here. Okay, interesting. So I played knight C6, just blocking this. This still keeps an advantage for black. And go on again with some fairly normal moves, just kicking the bishop, taking on d4. And I thought these pawns would be good. I have more central influence. White has no pawns in the center. And my only problem piece here is this slight squared bishop, which I do have trouble with. Sort of typical of French defense, this bishop causes problems one way or another. Even though I've got this avenue for the bishop to develop, there's just not a lot of good squares, it seems. Okay, bishop c5, it seems, was not a great move. So knight d7 was the way to play it. Or bishop to f5. Just developing the bishop. Yeah, I think that's what I would choose, bishop f5. In retrospect, just getting this piece out. And then rook fe1. He develops his bishop. And knight e4. Okay, so it looks like normal development from here. Instead, I tried this tricky tactical move, and it kind of backfired on me. Bishop c5. And he has this great response here. If you haven't seen the game, you might want to guess. Let's get rid of that. You might want to guess what White's response is here. Of course, it shows up on the screen as well. I'll go ahead and give it away. Bishop takes knight. So I thought, well, his queen is under attack and he has to respond to that. But one way to respond is to counterattack. So he's picked up a piece and my queen is under attack. Now, it turns out there's just no great answer to this. The only thing I can do is take his bishop, and I should probably take it right away. That's what the engine is recommending, and now he has to move his queen. Instead, I played my queen to d7, and he's still got to save his queen, so he went to d2, and then I pick up the bishop. So it's about the same as the other line, except my queen is in a different position here, and in fact it left this f-pawn undefended. So after rook a to e1, I play my bishop to b7. My queen is in the way of the bishop. I guess that's the problem with the queen on this square. That's one of the problems with it, in addition to leaving this undefended. And now White has a significant advantage. So what was better here? Better just to play rook to b8 or rook to d8. Get the rook off of this file by playing it here, or developing this rook, or the suggestions of the engine. So after bishop b7, I was defending this rook because it was under attack, and I wanted to be able to move my queen. But I guess the bishop is a little bit out of play over here, and now White could take advantage with knight to e4. Pretty tricky tactical move, knight e4, taking advantage of this pin and attacking the undefended f6 pawn. So queen to e7, unpinning and defending the pawn, and now knight to g3. So he's just transferred his knight over to the king side. Let me see, there was another tactic, another possibility, or knight takes c5. That's probably good too. Probably better. Get rid of that strong bishop, and if he can just trade off some pieces, he can probably win this endgame, because my structure is kind of a ruin over here. But it says knight d4 is the way to proceed. So, yeah, taking advantage of some of these weak squares. My bishop still needs to reroute back into the game. My queen's in the way of the c-pawn. Not a good position. Okay, bishop b7. He played queen h6, which was not the best move. Allows me to get my queen out, defend the f-pawn, and when he attacks the queen, I can go here and force a trade. And so now we're back to about even again. So both sides have missed some chances, and here we are at even. But it's some interesting tactics there, I thought. Okay, so bishop b4, trying to put a little pressure on his knight. He just moves it. And now he's threatening maybe to come in here and attack my bishop and my pawn. I try to activate my rook, and he blocks out my bishop, which was defending this square here. So I played bishop a5, and I think that's a mistake. I should probably come back along this diagonal. I just thought this bishop f8 move was very passive looking. But after bishop here, his knight can jump into c5, as well as knight to d4, attacking these pawns and harassing this bishop. This looks pretty good. So is knight d4 the best move? Yeah, knight d4 is the best move, I guess, because it comes with tempo against the rook. So I have to move the rook somewhere. And now he can jump in with knight c5, harassing my bishop. Although the engine likes knight f5 here. Knight f5 is interesting. It attacks my rook and my pawn. After knight f5, I would probably play rook e3. Is there a problem with that? Knight f5. Because rook e5, oh, it attacks his knight. Rook e6, rather. Rook e6 loses to knight c5. Oh, there's a fork there. Okay. So I can't just play rook e6. Rook e5 attacks his knight. And he could take on h6. And I can't trap it. It looks like king g7 and the knight retreats to g4. So he can win a pawn here, or he could support the knight with g4. So, okay, so knight f5 was good. That's kind of an interesting trick, the knight here and the knight there. These knights, when they get in close to your pieces, they can be pretty nasty. So the bishops are good long-range pieces, but they have to have open lines. I need to push these pawns and open up lines for the bishops. And white here just has too much activity with those knights to allow me to really do that comfortably. Okay, but he plays knight c5, not quite the best move, and I go bishop b6. Okay, looks like the only move to try and maintain equality. And then we get this exchange, and once again, things are about even. So white had some advantage there, but with the exchanges, it's back to an even rook and pawn endgame, but not easy to play. I repaired my pawn structure over here on the king side, but I do have more weaknesses than my opponent. He's got 3 pawns and 3 pawns all neatly collected together and in a position where they can protect each other, whereas I have 1 pawn over here, 2 here, 3 here. So just more weaknesses to worry about in my position. But I start out okay, just trying to gain some space, and if I can get my pawns forward and harass his rook, I thought I would be doing well here. And you see the position remains in the range of equality for quite a long time. So, but I've been forced into somewhat of a defensive position here. But it looks like I can hold this. So I'm just going to sit here with my king and go back and forth. So he decides to push on with this pawn, and we exchange. And I can always chase his king back. So I thought I was sitting here pretty. But now he gets his rook active. That's a good move. And now white's advantage has been slowly growing. And when my king leaves the defense of the e-pawn, his king can come forward again, which it does here. And okay, so my best play here was probably just to sit tight. So the engine is suggesting just rook c6 or king d6. If I play king d6, he's going to check me again. But I guess it makes sense. Well, he could check me. It says that he can also attack the other pawn. So, for example, king d6, rook a8 attacking the other pawn, king back to e7. King takes d5. Yeah, he can win that pawn. It's just a tough position here. So maybe rook c6 is a stronger try. But he can still just take this pawn, can't he? Oh, if he takes the pawn, I take his pawn. I guess that's the point. Rook f8. Rook e6. I wonder, can his king take the pawn here now? I guess rook e3 is good, forking these 2 pawns. So if I just keep my rook moving back and forth, maybe I can hold on here. But the advantage still is growing for white. I think white can keep playing and poking and prodding and maybe find a way in. Rook f5 or rook f7 look like tries here. Okay, but I did not play that. I tried to go active here to try and counteract my opponent's activity. I played rook e3, and now we get a sequence where we start gobbling up pawns. Takes. Oops, cancel that. He didn't take there. What did he play? He played rook h5. Cancel that. Rook h5 here. Oh, attacking my g-pawn. So I played rook g3. Just if he takes the g-pawn, I'll take his h-pawn. That's eventually what happens. Oh, I played f3 first. That's why I was getting the rook out of the way, so I could advance this pawn. Rook takes d5 with check. So now, yeah, now this is a plan that didn't work out. Let's see, did I have something better here? Instead of rook g3, king e6, bringing the king forward and trying to hold on to this pawn is a better try. Okay, rook g3 though is a losing move, but still the game isn't over here because he doesn't find the best way to proceed once again. So rook to e5 check is recommended, or rook to h5, supporting this pawn. He goes rook f5, which is logical, stopping me from advancing my pawn. I grab his h-pawn, and now it's just a one-pawn advantage. And after this move, king e3, I can gobble up some of his pawns and get into an endgame with 2 pawns against 1. But my king is actually closer than his king to the scene of the action. It's momentarily being kept out by the rook. But this might be a drawable, an endgame that I can draw. If my king ever gets in front of these pawns, then it should be a draw. But you'll see what happens later. I'm also running low on time. This game went long. And he kind of let my king get in front of the pawns. I thought it was going to be pretty easy here. But after this move, back up. After king c6, after king b6, I'm losing. So I need to go king c6 here, attacking his rook after he checks me. Rook e7. Rook h4 check, driving his king back. Well, the king drops to d3. Rook h6, protecting my king from checks. And maybe I can just sit here and keep his king back. Okay, so I played instead king b6. So looks like a very similar kind of move. I'm just getting my king in position to stop these pawns, but I'm not attacking his rook when I play king b6. And so so there's no tempo on the rook, and he gets to play a pawn move here. And now I don't really have any great moves. I go king c6. He goes rook e7 now. And where should he have gone? He should have gone rook a7. Go after my rook. Go after my pawn, which I can't defend. And this should be winning. Let's see, king b5 defending. How does he actually win this? Rook b7 check. King a4. Rook b6. So if there's an exchange of rooks, that's a winning endgame. So rook here check. King e5. Not so easy, but I guess white is gradually making progress and is going to push these pawns forward. As soon as the checks leave off, I can take this. White can take this pawn here, so he could just approach my rook with his king and then grab this pawn, I suppose, if nothing better. So looks like that should be winning for white. Instead, he played rook e7, and now my last chance to hold the game here is to play the move a5, kind of a typical endgame tactic. You give up a pawn to get into a drawn position. So if he takes, it's rook h4 check. His king has no shelter from the checks. With my king is guarding these squares, his rooks are blocking these squares, so his king is forced to go back and forth. Let's see, if the king comes to this square, for example, rook a4. How about just rook h5 check? Just keep checking. And then you can grab a pawn here. Yeah. And so I think there's just no way for his king to escape the checks, basically. Also, rook a4 is a move here, huh? Instead of rook h5, going after the pawn this way. Rook a7, and then taking here. Yeah, so this sacrificing a pawn in this position after rook e7, a4, and a5 rather, and he takes, and then I can round up the weak pawns because of the relatively good position of my king and rook. Huh. Okay, so I didn't play that, and I played king b5, and now this is really losing. So rook here, rook here, check, and he's got a nice skewer on my rook. And so I resigned here. That's how the game ended. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.